Have you ever heard a story so unbelievable, it just has to be true? Well, get ready, because today we're diving into one of the most baffling survival stories of all time. It's a tale that defies physics, logic, and everything we think we know about the limits of the human body. This is the story of Vesna Voloviyo, and how she survived something that should have been impossible. Our story begins on a cold day in January 1972. Meet Vesna Voloviyo, a 22-year-old flight attendant for JOT Yugoslav Airlines. She was young, full of life, and excited about her career, which allowed her to travel the world. On January 26th, she was scheduled for a flight. But here's the first twist of fate in this incredible story. She wasn't actually supposed to be there. The airline had made a simple clerical error. They had mixed her up with another flight attendant who was also named Vesna. When Vesna Voloviyo saw her name on the roster for JOT Flight 367, she knew it was a mistake. She could have pointed it out, gone home, and her life would have taken a completely different path. But she didn't. Why? Because the flight was headed to Copenhagen, Denmark. Vesna had never been to Denmark before, and saw this as a golden opportunity to visit a new country, even if just for a little while. So, she decided to take the flight, embracing the accidental adventure. This single, small decision would change her life forever. Flight 367 was a routine trip, flying from Stockholm to Belgrade, with planned stopovers in Copenhagen and Zagreb. After a brief stop in Copenhagen, where Vesna and the crew enjoyed a bit of sightseeing, they boarded the McDonnell Douglas DC-9 and prepared for the next leg of the journey to Zagreb. The plane took off, climbing steadily into the sky. On board were 28 people, 23 passengers and 5 crew members, including Vesna. Everything seemed perfectly normal. The weather was clear, and the plane was functioning as expected. But high above the mountains of Czechoslovakia, something went terribly wrong. At 4:01 p.m., as the plane reached an altitude of 33,333 feet, that's over 10 kilometers, or 6.4 miles high, it suddenly vanished from radar screens. An explosion tore through the luggage compartment, ripping the aircraft into 3 pieces in mid-air. It wasn't a mechanical failure. It was a bomb. The plane disintegrated, and its fragments, along with everyone on board, began a terrifying plunge back to Earth. From that altitude, a fall takes several minutes. Imagine the horror. The fuselage, the wings, and all the contents of the plane were scattered over a snowy, mountainous terrain. For the people on the ground, it was a scene of unimaginable devastation. Rescue workers rushed to the crash site, but the outlook was grim. Falling from such a height is, simply put, not survivable. There was no hope of finding anyone alive. But then, they heard a sound, a cry for help, faint but unmistakable, coming from the wreckage. A local villager named Bruno Honk, who had been a medic during World War II, followed the sound. He found a piece of the plane's tail section, and inside, amidst the twisted metal and debris, he discovered a woman in a light green uniform. She was alive. Her legs were trapped under another body and a food cart, but she was breathing. That woman was Vesna Voloviyo. Out of 28 people on that flight, 27 perished. Vesna was the sole survivor. She had fallen 33,333 feet without a parachute and lived. To put that into perspective, the mortality rate for falls from just 90 or 100 feet onto a hard surface is virtually 100%. Vesna fell more than 330 times that distance. It's a feat that has earned her a Guinness World Record for the highest fall survived without a parachute, a record that still stands today. How is this even possible? How could anyone survive that? Well, investigators and doctors have pieced together a theory, and it's a perfect storm of miraculous circumstances. First, it's believed Vesna was pinned inside the tail section of the plane by a food trolley. This small, confined space essentially acted as a protective capsule, shielding her from the initial blast and the extreme cold and lack of oxygen at that altitude. It prevented her from being sucked out into the open air. Second, the section of the fuselage she was in tumbled down towards a heavily wooded and snow-covered mountainside. The angle of the impact, combined with the thick snow and dense pine branches, acted like a giant cushion, absorbing much of the force of the landing. Instead of a sudden, fatal stop, her descent was slowed dramatically in the final moments. And third, there's Vesna's own physiology. Doctors noted that she had unusually low blood pressure. They theorized that this might have caused her to pass out very quickly after the depressurization of the cabin. which would have saved her heart from exploding upon impact. It's an incredible combination of being in the right place, at the right time, with the right biological makeup. Vesna's injuries were, as you can imagine, catastrophic. She suffered a fractured skull, 3 broken vertebrae, one of which was completely crushed. Both her legs were broken, and she had a fractured pelvis. She was in a coma for 27 days. When she finally woke up, she had temporary amnesia and couldn't remember the crash or even boarding the plane. Her first memory was waking up in the hospital and seeing her parents. She was paralyzed from the waist down. But with incredible determination, and after several surgeries, she eventually learned to walk again, though she was left with a permanent limp. The world was captivated by her story. She was hailed as a national hero in Yugoslavia. But for Vesna, the label of survivor was complex. She didn't feel like a hero. She was overwhelmed with survivor's guilt, constantly thinking about the other passengers and crew who didn't make it. In interviews, she often said, "Whenever I think of the accident, I have a prevailing, deep feeling of guilt for surviving, and I cry. Maybe I should not have survived at all." It's a heartbreaking reminder of the psychological toll that such an event takes. Despite the trauma, Vesna tried to return to her job at Jot Airlines. They gave her a desk job, as she was no longer able to fly due to her injuries, but also because her fame made her a major attraction on flights, which they felt was inappropriate. She became a vocal political activist later in life, and passed away in 2016 at the age of 66. The story of Vesna Volovio continues to fascinate and baffle people around the world. Was it a medical miracle, a freak alignment of physics and luck, or was it simply fate, a destiny set in motion by a simple name mix-up that put her on that specific flight? Her survival defies easy explanation. It pushes the boundaries of what we believe is possible and serves as a powerful testament to the sheer unpredictability of life and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. It's a story that still, after all these years, just doesn't quite make sense. What do you think? Was it pure luck, a medical anomaly, or something else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is one of those stories that really makes you think about the fine line between life and death, and the incredible chances that shape our existence. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as incredible as I did, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more tales of the unexplained and the extraordinary. We'll see you in the next one.